In this secret laboratory deep down in the bowels of the earth, this man carries out his fiendish research.
Is it safe?
Clear.
But I'm gonna torture you anyway.
Hey, on, that didn't hurt, did it?
You can't let a man die so that you can discover something.
Doctor, he's gone.
Oh my God, don't stop now!
Today's patient, Psycho. Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water. Oh wait, no, wait, that's Jaws. Just when you thought it was safe to eat a Jell-O pudding pop.
I now pronounce you Mr. and Mrs. Chocolate Chip Jell-O Pudding Pop.
Oh God, too scary for the Halloween season. Oh wait, I got it. Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the shower. Showers are totally scary. As a matter of fact, I haven't showered since I saw this movie when I was 12. By the way, does anybody know how to get black mold off your scrotum? We all know the setup by now. Big Booze McGee steals a baller amount of money, goes to a 2-star hotel, and just before she's about to enjoy the shower head, she gets sliced and diced by a woman with oddly mannish shoulders. This hotel should be dreading the review in Kayak, I'll tell you that much. Norman Bates is loosely based on the reuse, renew, recycle hoarder Ed Gein.
Hey, baby.
Ed was also the influence for this helpless romantic. And the worst contestant in the history of RuPaul Drag Race, Leatherface.
Oh my God, who's she? Get ready to synthesize.
We find out, and I guess I should say spoilers for a movie that's over half a century old, that Norman has actually been keeping the corpse of his mother inside of his house for what I'm guessing is tax purposes. While doing this, he took on the persona of Mother, which kind of explains why they're arguing all the time, and ended up having conversations between himself and what he thought was Dear Mom.
Kill everyone now. Condone first-degree murder. Advocate cannibalism. Eat shit. Filter my politics. Filth is my life. Take whatever you like.
Mother, please.
I love the taste of it. The taste of hot, freshly killed blood.
Mother, she's just a stranger. She's hungry and it's raining out.
There is right and there is wrong. I have never been wrong. I am God.
Shut up! Shut up!
He would also become Mother when he thought violence was needed. You know, like when the people at the hotel pack those little shampoos and soaps in their bag. Those aren't free. After Norman, as Mother, kills Big Booze McGee, also known as Marion, her sister Lila, in a cardboard box disguised as a man with a delightful Dapper Dan head of hair named Sam Loomis. No, not that one. Go on the case to find out what happened. This vanilla Scooby gang finds out that there's something strange here about the Bates Motel and end up getting confronted by Norman/Mother on their late checkout. So what we're looking to explore here today is dissociative personality disorder, formerly known as multiple personality disorder, and often misconstrued for schizophrenia, cross-dressing and underlying transgender undertones, and the beginning of the connection between mental illness and violence in popular media. Whew, that's kind of a heavy breakdown. And I know not all of you went to Johns Hopkins University like me. I mean, I wasn't a student, I was just visiting, until they kicked me out. So let's lighten things up a little bit. So let's start with, did this ailment actually exist inside Norman? Now, most in the medical field have actually dismissed this as not a real thing, but those that actually do believe in it actually say that it is so uncommon it's ridiculous. This particular type of ailment was made popular in the made-for-TV movie Sybil. While it was a huge hit when it came out, just like the Loch Ness Monster in My Family's Love, it was found out to be a complete fabrication. That Sally Field has a history of lying to us. Did you know she couldn't even fly? I'm using the ending of this film as my guide. You know the ending, the one if post-1995 you say, why the fuck is this in here? It ruins the ending. Remember, and you're gonna hear me say this a lot, it was 1960. Eisenhower was in the lame duck part of his presidency, Andy Griffith was the most popular guy on television, and we were only 15 years separated from the death of Hitler. Yeah, I know, wrap your head around that one.
I got the whole story, but not from Norman.
I got it from his mother.
If you can get past the unlikelihood of this existing in the first place, the film does play upon the idea of emotional childhood trauma, which for those that believe in it do believe that is one of the leading causes of it. But the idea that it would lead to violence and sexual neutering, oh god, I mean mental sexual neutering, is a bit of a leap. This can loosely be tracked back to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That if there's a hidden side to us or a split personality, that it has to be sinister, because after all, when it comes to humans,
you got kind of a dark side, don't you?
The idea being that a hero in a movie can only be a hero if he appears to be similar to those that are in the audience. Anything different from that must be a disruption and considered therefore dangerous. Because nuance is for
Norman Bates no longer exists. He only half existed to begin with.
Convenient. Stupid pseudoscience dribble, but convenient. Did they get this psychologist off of Wish.com?
Did he kill my sister?
Ooh, yeah, she's on the slab, you know. Oh, by the way, have you heard of see-through shower curtains? I'll explain later.
You have to go back 10 years. To the time when Norman murdered his mother and her lover. Now, he was already dangerously disturbed.
How can he possibly know that? I understand that the movie is trying to say that there is not a connection between those who have a desire for drag or those who are transgender with those that have a psychotic break, and good for them on that. But this movie is certainly dismissive of trauma and trauma survivors. The idea that all survivors of trauma end up being victimizers is not only beyond stupid, it's horrifyingly insulting. Fun fact, when John Wayne Gacy was a kid, he was at a family barbecue, and they ended up tying a chicken to a log so they could kill it, pluck it, and cook it. While watching this happen, John Wayne Gacy got his first erection. Please tell me how that was taught to him through years of systemic abuse. But enough about chickens. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Did Norman identify as male or female? And to use the horribly outdated vernacular of that time, their words not mine, was he a transvestite? Something we would now use the word transgender for. Once again, I need to preface this. Anything out of the ordinary, being an artist, protesting the system, voting for Adlai Stevenson, was seen as something to be afraid of. So the film goes out of its way to make sure they describe Norman as not transgender, which I think the only reason they do that for is because they have no idea how to explain that to the audience.
I like to wear women's clothes.
Huh?
I like to wear women's clothes. Panties, brasiers, sweaters, pumps. It's just something I do.
People don't know what it is, but they're sure they should be afraid of it. It's probably something those Ruskies invented.
Then comes the major surgery, the removal of the man and the formation of the woman.
The idea in the 1960s that if you wore women's clothing and you weren't English, I don't like spam! You were considered a sexual deviant. And unfortunately, those outdated ideas still exist to some degree in today's culture. So even though a butch man took Norman down and got everything back to the status quo, that if Norman doesn't see himself as a woman, then he must be horribly mentally disturbed. People then could not handle anything out of their comfort zone. This can't possibly be an issue of people inside of your neighborhoods or towns. No, it's one man, and we got him locked up. Oh, thank God. You can all go back now to living your pristine baby boomer lives. You know, the ones riddled with barbecues and duck and cover and segregation. So we are obviously dealing with an exceptionally, unbelievably, outstandingly, amazingly ignorant crowd. Now, I'm not definitively saying if Norman is or is not transgender. That's out of my field of expertise. Let those geniuses over at Everglade University figure that one out. But just the idea of Norman wearing a dress was just too much for the status quo to be able to handle.
Matricide is probably the most unbearable crime of all.
Well, after ripping the tag off your mattress, sure.
He stole her corpse.
I mean, who hasn't? Oh, my lawyers are actually telling me to rephrase that as, hopefully no one.
When he met your sister, he was touched by her. Aroused by her. He wanted her. That set off the jealous mother, and mother killed the girl.
Oh, and by the way, sorry for your loss.
Why was he dressed like that? He's a trans...
Not exactly.
No, don't worry. Those people don't exist in small rural areas. Allow me to explain. Transgender. Denoting or relating to a person whose sense of personal identity and gender does not correspond with their birth sex. Once again, in 1960, they thought Donna Reed was edgy, so maybe we should give him a break.
The following program is rated TV MA LSV. It contains strong language, sexual situations, violence, and nudity. It is intended only for mature audiences.
You fucking with some wet ass pussy. Bring a bucket and a mop for this wet ass pussy. Give me everything you got for this wet ass pussy. Beat it up, nigga, catch a charge. Extra large and extra hard. Put this pussy right in your face. Swipe your nose like a credit card.
So don't forget, back in this day and many, many years after, the whole idea of, and using that nomenclature again, the idea of cross-dressing equaled madness, and then therefore madness equaled violence. Even though if you look at statistics, those in the transgender community are some of the least violent people there are. So last but not least, let's talk about how this movie equated the idea of mental illness to violence. But here's the thing. Those that are mentally ill are not usually the Norman Bateses of the world, or Michael Myers, or Jasons. In fact, the mentally ill are more likely to be victimized than the actual victimizers themselves. Connections between mental illness and violence have no comparable connection outside of cinema. Now, I'm in no way a licensed medical profession when it comes to the old brain here. I'm your regular doctor. You know, kind of like a Grey's Anatomy doctor, the kind that has hot sex in the OR when somebody desperately needs help. My mother is actually a psychologist. When I asked for her opinion on it, she said, "Don't stop brushing my hair or I'll bring your father back from the dead to whip you." So needless to say, I was on my own. This is far from the most egregious example in this genre, but this is the first, if not the first, example of it, of the idea of using mental illness as a crutch to be fear of the other. Is Psycho a bad film for what it did? Well, I have to be completely honest. I might be compromised in my opinion. This is and continues to be one of my favorite films. It has its faults. Many, many faults. But that doesn't seem destructive in our modern world. Whether you agree with the psychologist at the end of that movie or think he's completely full of horseshit, you now realize that why in 1960s he had to be there in the first place, as the audience would have been completely left in the dark. It might ruin the ending now for some of us, but it was desperately needed back then. To beat a dead horse, and then fuck it, and then put it up for sale, and be mad that nobody's buying it because I fucked it, and fucked it again, this was 1960. It's important to see how much has changed since then, but it's also just as important to see how far we still have to go. So if you feel a little bit gross at the end of this movie, may I suggest calling your mom and then taking a hot shower. Make sure it's just the right temperature so you feel dead on your feet. You'll feel good as new.